morning, afternoon, time is an illusion, and welcome to Murder and Coffee, TPK Roleplay's GM talk show, where we discuss all things TTRPGs and game mastering. I am O. Sarah Franco, that one specter that haunts the ancient jar of pickles in your attic, and one of your hosts this afternoon. My co-host, as always, is the human who became a lich so she'd finally have enough time to read all those books. It's Luka.
It's true. And today we will be talking about death in TTRPGs with an exceptional guest, Keganexe. We will be accepting audience questions from all of you GMs and intrepid adventurers throughout the stream. So feel free to post them in chat. But before we get to all that, let's introduce our guest, Sarah. Would you mind?
Deep within you, your bones ache for the whispers and words of the one creator, Keganexe. Kegan is an award-winning game designer that lives inside the roundabout Wendy's and rose to prominence by literally cracking open other designers like glow sticks and drinking the vital fluids that flow in their veins. Kegan is a streamer, DC-based Cryptid, TTRPG Twitter's indie-pilled PogChamp, and #1 lover of D&D 5e discourse. When it comes to games about skeletons, you know they always get that clutch victory royale. As a designer, they focus on short, punchy games designed for streaming and one-shots. You can find them online at keganexe.com or basically anywhere at Keganexe. They often ponder orbs and perform necromancy in their free time. Hey, welcome to Murder and Coffee.
Intro. Holy shit. Ooh.
We rolled out the red
Thanks
carpet for you,
having
man.
me. Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you here. Can I just say, I'm very, 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 very pleased. This is gonna be a fun one. Keegan has been, I don't know if you know this, but you have been on the list of Murder and Coffee guests since the jump. So for me, this is really exciting. And that was before I knew who you were and got to interact with you like on a basis. And then I got to know, like, interact with you. And it's like, oh yeah, no, they're coming on the show.
That's so funny. No, I didn't know that. We've been planning this one since like at least December, right? November, maybe?
I think November.
Might have been November.
It feels like it's been forever.
It feels like it's been a while.
Just been like sitting on it, like, okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so what do you got there in that there, is that a dinosaur mug, Luka, that I behold?
It's the curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal mug.
This is very good.
And yes, I've got Highlander grog because I feel the call of the Moors, I guess. I need to go haunt them.
I like this a whole bunch. I myself am rocking Intelligista's just house blend, and it's delightful. I've got it in my Beer Terror mug, some TPK merch. Represent.
I have a vanilla Coke.
Amazing. Amazing.
Everyone's so fancy. I have Coke.
Here's the thing. You're going to be feeling a lot better in like 3 hours when you're just going about your day. And I'm like slamming death metal right into my veins just to like do something with the excess energy from like drinking coffee at this time of day. But you know, there's 2 ways to live life, I suppose.
No, I'm going to take a nap after this stream.
I'm never going to nap again. Much like the undead, sleep is not necessary anymore.
Oh, wow.
Sleep when you're dead.
What a segue.
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good segue, because that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, is death in TTRPGs. What a concept. Before we get into the actual topic, though, Keegan, I would love for the folks here who don't know you that well, or maybe this is the first time they're seeing you at all. Could you tell us how you got into TTRPGs and what got you not only like running games, but designing games?
Yeah, so my husband is actually a professional GM. He GMs for a game store that he also works at. And after enough begging, he finally dragged me into what ended up amusingly being like a really ill-fated Fate campaign. We had a session 0 built characters, and then nothing ever happened. And then a few years later, I finally played a D&D game, and have just been playing RPGs since, which is really only a few years, like 2-3 years probably. And then I hopped from D&D to indies, and now here I am.
That's awesome. So can you talk to us a little bit too? Because you write games. Top three games that you've written that you're like the most proud of.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, don't do
Yeah,
that
choose
to me.
choose your
I
darling
wasn't-
Right now.
so we can kill
Right
them.
now.
I wasn't prepared
Choose.
for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my
Choose your
favorite game,
victors.
legitimately the one I have right here, In Extremis. It's my game. It's the reason I'm here today. It's my game about being necromancers. And then God, other two. Probably DDTV. It's dungeondelvers.tv, which we played recently on this channel. It was very fun.
So
And
fun.
then God, I don't know. It feels like I'm choosing the Necromancer as number 3 because I'm on this program today, but it's probably the Necromancer.
Awesome. These are great. And folks can get all of those at keganexe.com, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. And you should do those things. I myself just ordered an Extremis, and I'm very excited.
It's
very
on
excited
the
for its
way.
arrival. I
The
know.
link is in chat.
Go to
I-
there. Do the thing.
to there.
Buy
I
cool
literally
games.
checked your shipping before we started this. to make
Yay!
sure it had moved.
Oh,
Heck yeah. I'm so happy.
because you knew she was going to ask about it live.
I really did.
I was gonna be
She's
like,
going to ask,
listen,
I need to do this right now.
yeah, where's my book, Keegan? God.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. So excited. So let's jump into the topic at hand. Let's talk about death positivity. Because I'm gonna be honest, I understand those words independently, and I feel like I understand those words together. But can you talk to us about what death positivity actually is and why it's important that we understand that?
The chat's asking for it real fast, so here's lead.
Ooh, perfect.
Yeah, death positivity. So out of RPGs, it's a movement to sort of combat general death anxiety and bring more people both into end of life care and post life care for people. But sort of in an RPG sense, for me, this means trying to openly and healthily explore the topic of death, and letting death inform roleplay rather than being something that you shy away from.
Right. Yeah. I feel it's interesting in games because I think that there's a distance between what death actually is because you're playing a game. You know what I mean? There's this weird separation that makes it infinitely safer, I guess, to talk about.
Yeah.
It's not the existential impending doom. It's just that thing that happens in games sometimes. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I know, Luka, you play a lot with the theme of death in not only you're running Curse of Strahd, but in general. What are your thoughts on this?
So it's a little background about me, and I know I've made this clear before, but and you know this, Sarah, I grew up in a cult where death was not a thing, really. You died and you went to party it up, and just eternal life is very much a core tenet of
Top tier heaven, let's go.
Let's go! I want to create worlds. I'm making unicorns and mermaids.
Fuck yeah, bro.
But as a result, when I broke away from the cult as a young adult, I very much went through a couple years of existential crisis where I suddenly had to deal with the reality of death. Because I grew up just not believing it was even a possibility. Yeah, my body will die, but then I'll get a new one and it'll be fine. So that was a whole thing. And honestly, the thing that really brought me home for being okay with it was Discworld. Terry Pratchett. And all of his the whole undead rights and, don't think of it as dying, think of it as leaving early to leave the lead beat the rush. Yeah, and just all of that, all of the death books, Reaper Man, everything like that, it really kind of, okay, it's fine, there's humor and beauty and excitement in life, and then at the end you're done and that's okay, and who knows what happens, but I won't know and it'll be okay. So I don't know, it made me a little bit come to terms with it and be okay. And one of the quotes really struck me was, I believe, I forget which book it is, but there's someone talking with death, like about life lasting forever, and like how if people knew when they were going to die or live forever, they'd probably lead better lives. And death says, if people knew when they were going to die, I think they probably wouldn't live at all. And it made me realize how much of my life I'd spent growing up really engaging with the world, but planning my future for after my body died. And it was just such a sad outlook. And I really kind of made peace with, like, no, I'm going to live this life, and death will come, but it'll come hopefully when I'm tired and wanting it. So that was my piece on it. So a lot of that reflects itself in just about every thing I run or play.
Right. It's interesting because when I think about it in like experiencing death and like in, you know, games, like whether it's like video games or whatever, I would say a lot of the time, like the way that death is present is it's always some evil cult, right? That's like doing messed up shit about death. It's always the bad guys. It's always somebody utilizing death to like hurt others or for dark and nefarious purposes. And I guess like what's an example of like death positivity in a game? You know what I mean? What would that look like if somebody wanted to actually practice that as from a GM's perspective, right? Are we talking about just not what we generally see? Do you have an example?
I do. I have an example if no one else does.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
A really cool one that actually handled this really well is if you look at in Magic the Gathering, in Ravnica. There we go. Look at me remembering things. The Golgari cult has this really cool thing with death being not even necessarily like the next step, just like an inevitable inclusion for sort of where a body goes, and the way they interact with their dead is just really, really interesting. And like I think they're the leader of them currently I don't know, the leader of them at various points has been someone who is dead, and you know, like there's this whole thing about like the right of corpses and just like a really healthy outlook on it, I think.
Yeah, I think the one of the best examples, and it's like Luka's here or whatever. Well, I've got two examples, and it's bizarrely they're from the same one shot that I ran recently. Maybe that's why it's top of mind. But Luka, you played a grave cleric for Undead
Yes.
Rights,
Undead
which
Rights.
I loved because I think it speaks to seeing people as people, even when they're, you know, not alive anymore. And I think that preserves some element of humanity.
Undead, yes. Unperson, no.
Exactly. And I loved that. I thought it was a beautiful take, because I think a lot of the times, like, particularly in games, it's like, all right, you've murdered everyone in this room. I go through their body for loot. And that's always bugged me, because I'm like, that's like a dead person, dog. Like, that's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
in real
whole
life,
thing.
that's a literal war crime.
Right. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, it's just like, yeah, no, it's fine. And I think it speaks to that, like, separation in games where, like, there's more space to play with concepts than in real life. But it's funny. And the second example, HP with his little death Kenku, like, asking for buying people's last words and putting them in his little book. Like, I think there's something, like, he spun it as like very funny, you know what I mean? Like, here's these people and these funny one-liners and everything. But like how it simply captured the idea of legacy, and like what is left behind when you're gone, and like how much closure came from just that one character choice he made around death, and how it ended up fitting into the larger story was just chef's kiss. So good. Like, I feel like that perspective made the narrative more meaningful, if that makes sense. And I enjoyed the heck out of it, and it was so unique too. Like,
Honestly, it was really cool in terms of like party dynamic to have like last words death Kenku, and then Eviope, the death positive like grave cleric, like just wandering around. Just, you're going to die? Oh, I'm so glad. Are you planning on coming back afterwards as an undead? Let's have you sign up for the Gravediggers Union. And then he's like, can I have your words? It was really cool to run around with that.
yeah, absolutely. I guess I'm kind of going off script here because like my brain is very curious about this now. Like, do we demonize death in games and like put the evil spin on it? Is it just fear, or is it like a socialization of like death equaled bad? You know what I mean? Like, what is that? Is it just fear?
I think
a lot of it is that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's fear. I think especially like in a lot of English speaking countries, like interacting with the dead, even like sort of speaking about dying is just like a massive cultural taboo. So anyone sort of interacting in that space is going to be villainized. And I think we get a lot of that as, you know, like these big villains are doing something that just is taboo in some sort of way.
Yeah, because I feel like... Oh, go for it, Luca.
I was just gonna say, you know, I watched that thing where they talk about how most horror movies are successful because they play on like core fears. Even though the movie may be about this, what they're really doing is playing on this specific fear. And the whole It Follows was basically just playing on the fear of death. It's this ever stalking, ever following power that you can't stop. You can't even see it coming. It's just always following you slowly throughout your life. And I feel like that's why that particular movie got to me so much. Whereas like I watched Dark Skies and it's like, okay. But it's just this ever-present thing that we can't control. We can't stop. We don't know enough about. We just know it's an end. And so I think it's just this fear that like always looms in everything we do.
It cannot be escaped.
Mm-hmm.
Unrelated.
No one's getting off this rock alive.
Yeah,
it's probably the fifth time someone's mentioned It Follows this week, and I still haven't
really?
seen it.
This is your badunkadunk thing there this week?
Yeah, this is I'm watching it after this stream.
Amazing. This is very, very good.
Like, okay, it's a sign at this point.
I have to see this film. I mean, and it's interesting too, like death mechanics in games, right? Like Dungeons and Dragons, right? You go unconscious, and there's the mechanic to like, are you dead yet? Are you dead yet? Are you dead yet? And there's not really, I mean, yes, there's like true death or whatever, but is there? You know what I mean? Like, is there? And we've talked about this on the show several times, but I mean, death is like the ultimate consequence. You know what I mean? Like, you fuck up, you die. But I feel like in TTRPGs, do you die?
It's like in comics, there's always a Lazarus pit or something.
Right.
Like, even if you watch their head fall from their body, like, someone can scoop them back up or
Give
put
us
their
another
essence
season.
into a new body.
Give us another
there's always
season.
Yeah.
Let's Jon Snow our way out of this bullshit.
Oof.
And I mean that's like with Dungeons and Dragons. Keegan, I'd love your perspective and like maybe some other systems in the way that they handle death. Do you feel that there's more weight to death, like in other systems that either you've written or just other designers in general?
I think there could be. I also think there's a few ways to sort of easily fix some of that with D&D design.
Mm-hmm.
Like notably when I'm GMing a D&D game, if we get into death saves, I think currently in games, you know, you down, you roll dice, that's your turn. So when I'm running a game, you're getting a flashback while you're
I love that. Yeah.
Some sort of decision point while you're there, and frequently we don't even roll dice there. Like, does your character want to come back? Does your character not want to come back? Is, I think, just like
Ooh.
a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
But yeah, I think a lot of games handle it better. I think like even in my game in Extremis, everyone's a necromancer. And there is like a very real possibility your characters die, and it is taboo to bring someone back permanently. There are big overarching consequences for doing it, and you're really encouraged to do it. There's gonna be consequences if you do it though, and I think it sort of stretches it into something else. It makes it feel impactful without you necessarily having to lose a character to do it.
Right. I mean, I guess it's a little further down on the list, but this feels like a good time to like bring it up, like just necromancy in general. I see Luka being like, yes, like
I wasn't wanting to listen, chat. We have a list of questions that we're trying to get through in an orderly way, but Sarah and I cannot resist just jumping all around.
Over this.
I'm looking at it. It's like, when do we get to this one?
Yeah, no, it's and which it reminds us we know what we want to talk about, but also we want to know what you guys want to talk about too. So if you've got questions or whatever, throw them in the chat and we'll absolutely at least have a dialogue on them. Or I mean, we've got Keegan here. Ask them all the good questions. But yeah, the question I'm jumping to a little bit is like necromancy in general, right? Like, does if resurrection, whether it's from like a clerical sense or a necromantic sense, does it negate death, or does it make death just something else entirely?
So I don't think it necessarily negates death, and I think I just got into it a little bit. But I think just sort of as a bigger overarching thing is sort of like, how do societies that can reanimate their dead, what does that look like? And I don't think that means there's no consequences. I don't think that means death is negated. I think it just means it's something else frequently.
Like,
all I can think of is Sarah Warbreaker with the legions of
I
won't go
guess
into that though, but that's what I think of when I think of like a whole society just reusing bodies.
we don't have time for Brandon Sanderson right now.
It's fine. I will avoid.
I mean, we've pulled a little bit, like we talked Terry Pratchett or Brandon Sanderson. Personally, for me, one of my favorite like death themed contents or books that I've read, Garth Nick's Sabriel. In it, there's magic and all the things that is bringing people to life, and then there's an entity that's charged with putting them back and keeping things flowing. The overarching like visual theme is like a river that moves through different gates, and once you pass a certain gate, like it's harder. You can always come back, but it's harder to come back until I think there's like 9 gates overall. And what I liked about that is it preserved like the traditional sense of dying. Most people go in the river and they're gone. You know what I mean? But like it's a two-way door sort of a thing. And I think for me, like, that's necromancy changes death in that like now it's a two-way door. It's not just the like into the abyss. And I been trying to think about this and like collect my thoughts around it leading into the show, but I think it makes death something different, like not in like a good or bad way, but just in a demonstrably like different sense. And I think like whether it's a stat block being like this thing is now undead, you know what I mean? I think it's just it's such an interesting concept because it's like it's and you can see I'm like struggling to like articulate it. I too grew up in a very much like death is not the end kind of vibe, but it's flavored so differently, you know what I mean? Like being able to come back and like just be around and do like undead stuff. It just, I don't know, it's unnerving on one hand, but it's actually kind of like Keegan, you pointed out, like, how do societies manage bringing when you don't actually ever die, like you just pop right back up and like now you have a new thing. Like what does that do to social structures? What does that do to like governments or anything?
Aaron in chat had a go ahead, Keegan.
No, sorry, you're good.
I was gonna just point out the question that Aaron asked, which was a serious question. If you die and get resurrected or reincarnated, are your debts, promises, law breakings, and marriages annulled? Like, aka till death do us part, things like that. And it's like, you technically died. So are you free? I mean, how would that affect society? Would people just be offing themselves to get out of debt? And then it's like the new
Oh god, that's
bankruptcy.
That's really dark.
I
It's
declare
really dark.
bankruptcy.
imagine
then
getting
it's
out of your
just-
college loan.
Yeah.
But like if you just take out a loan to hire a necromancer to res you, like this could become a whole, like, I'm sure at some point society would outlaw, and then it's like some black market thing. And then when you involve black market, are the necromancers not great? You come back, but like your arm never works the same or something. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna calm down now because I'm alredy like,
I know
wait, stop.
This is a
stop.
really
Hold on,
interesting
we gotta start
idea.
writing this down.
Would it be like because I still feel like you've got like the necromancer side, but I feel like more what it would be was like the lawful good folk will be like not that easy. You know, you'd have like a bunch of clerics like going around and being like,
Oh,
no,
well, you signed this contract with your soul.
Yeah, someone would always, I mean, there's always someone out there willing to take it up a notch, you know, figure. So I'm sure there's some sort of order that would come out and is like, no, we will give you this loan, but it reaches past death and it has all these clauses, you know. So yeah, I feel like that would be far reaching into how society works.
Well, and like it flips the idea of consequences on its head a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you die, but nothing happens. Nothing happens. All your problems are still there.
I mean, as
Still
long
happening.
as you've arranged a way to come back, yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a way out.
Such an interesting idea, because like I feel like I would almost, as a GM, I'd almost play it like, yeah, everything's like over and done, but it's just exceedingly hard to die. So when you make like a just a really intense dungeon, like those ones that just eat players alive, it's like, yeah, but you're not quite dead yet. Like it's them actively trying to die, but like they just can't. Like, nope, some helpful little cleric on the side of the road's like, oh, he looks like he got an owie, and like heals you all the way. Like,
Get back up there, sweetie.
yeah.
I love the idea of the till death do us part, and it's like, I cannot stand this anymore. And you end yourself, and then like your wife just goes out and it's like, yes, I need to hire a necromancer to bring this son of a bitch back. He is not getting out this easy.
He did not
Just
fix the shutters.
I have a honeydew list here that is unfinished.
If he finishes the porch, I'll let him die.
Harold, you're not done yet.
Oh, this is very, very good. Cole brings up, this sounds like some kind of patchwork people or something, which
Sounds like it.
is very good. Patchwork people, who wrote this system, Keegan? Could you remind me?
Patchwork World was written by Aaron King, the person whose question we're currently answering.
Yes. Thank you. It's a cool system. And you wrote,
Patchwork people for Patchwork World.
yeah, there we go. Patchwork people for Patchwork World, where it's just you die and you are instantly reincarnated as something else. And you have to solve problems this way, and you like roll on a table, and it's delightful, and I'm very excited about it.
We're gonna play it eventually.
I know.
I
I'm
know
so
we have
excited.
it scheduled, maybe.
Sometime in February, if I'm not mistaken.
That feels right.
We're gonna be playing
I'm not
it.
checking, but it's
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not.
scheduled.
Go check out the TVK schedule on our site for all sorts of shenanigans and good times.
I put it in chat. We had another question, speaking
very
of
good.
chat, from Proper, saying, I struggle to bring my players to a point where they could possibly die. How do I toe the line to make my games feel dangerous without being a GM menace?
I am not the right one to ask this question.
I am
to,
also
because
not the right one. I'm
I
just
am
like,
a
kill them.
menace.
No, but like, let's talk about being a menace, though. Like, I mean, what advice would you have to give players or GMs the confidence to be a menace in their games? Because I think a lot of it, for me, like, I totally vibe with that. Because it's like we're telling a story, and in my mind, like, death is like, even though mechanically I understand it can be that two-way door. It feels like I think because of the negative connotation, it feels like you're bullying your players a little bit. Can you talk about like how to like switch up that mindset?
Yeah, so I said it previously, but when I do like death saves and stuff, whether or not I have the player's role is really a pretty big question on it, because like it's D&D, they're just going to get revived anyway. Like, especially as you get to like higher level play, they're just going to get revived anyway. It's not necessarily a real threat unless they'd like it to be a real threat. So to that end, I have a lot of faith in my players when I'm running a game. I have a lot of faith that they understand the mechanics, they understand how fights work. So I'll throw things at them. If it's too big, they can run away. But for me, I'm not being a menace. This is the characters are doing something tough. It should be tough. And they can go down or they cannot go down. And like the story's gonna move on. They're gonna have the option to have their character die or not die. But like, I don't know. I think it's just having like a healthy conversation with your players ahead of time about it. Like, hey, if this is too tough, if we're not enjoying this, let's do something else.
Yeah, I love that. Communication always
I
talk
feel
to your
like
players.
it always comes
Yeah,
down to that
there's
communication.
basic principles just in being a human person, but in particularly like with TTRPGs and the trust and communication between GM and player is like, if you don't have it, like you're in for a bad time. Like
Everyone's gonna have a real bad time.
everybody's gonna have a real bad time. But I love the agency of it and recognizing like it's a game, we're supposed to be having fun. So if somebody's like stressed out or tilted and like not having a good time because they're dying, just change it. You don't need to have that.
It's different for every player too. I mean, some people really struggle with the idea of their characters dying, whereas like, while I would feel loss at not being able to play a character anymore, like I would hope that like they could go out in a cool moment or doing something that they found purpose or value in. Because it's a game, we can make it like in real life people die for no reason at all and it sucks. But in the game, like, yeah, if she's gonna die, like let her go out this way or let her have a moment or things like that. Whereas then I can go play a new character and bring something new to the story and try things out. But I know some people really struggle with losing characters, so I think it's just you gotta get to know your players and know what they are wanting or needing from the game.
I think my approach in running like a campaign when it like came to death, I think what made me more comfortable at the idea that my players might die was just playing with different point of no return concepts to get comfortable as a GM. So like whether it was a weird form of lycanthropy or something else, like something that like
Goddamn
took over.
crystal dogs.
Yeah, something that takes over, right? And like that way they're not dead, they're not gone, but they kind of are. Like it's just a different parallel. And I would say since playing with that theme, I do feel more comfortable like pushing my players to be like, you might not make it. Like that's fine. But again, it's always a conversation of hey, you might not make it. Like and having that conversation up front. Because I think too, and because Proper's the person who asked the question, and I know that they are a very narrative focused person, and something that I think I want to be better at, and I would encourage people, is the idea of like, well, they can't die yet, the story's not over. But isn't it?
Well, so here's a way you could do it. If you're not comfortable killing your characters, just take a page from comic books. I mean, how often does like all of the villains of Batman just totally kick his ass. But there's always like they they won't kill him. Something always happens, or they'll be like, "Oh, I'm back to play with you later," or "Oh, I'm gonna leave you here tied up,"
Mhm.
So like you could do like the cat and mouse playing with it and not actually killing, or
Mhm.
you can do the whole like there's always some reason that they don't just kill you right then and
Yeah.
allow you to get away.
Yeah.
Or the whole we'll kill Robin instead. We'll make you feel the pain. I mean, I got this from Buffy, but it's like, why go for the kill when you can go for the pain?
Yeah, my absolute favorite thing to do. Player goes down. Here's a devil's bargain. I will let you come back up.
Devil's bargain. We did that in
But-
Zeke's campaign.
They're so
Blood
good.
and Grit. So good.
Like, you can come back up, but I'm gonna do something that sucks. I'm gonna do something terrible for you. Or
Mhm.
I'll let you go down. You can die. And on your way out, I'm gonna let you do something. You're gonna cast that final spell. Cast that final smite. Like, go ahead and get that death. Go ahead and get that kill in. You're going down too.
Yeah.
But, like, these are your two options. These are the two ways I have.
Mhm.
If you want to be out of the story now, here's a great time. You
Yeah.
get your like big heroic moment here at the end. If you want to stay around, you can.
Right.
I don't know if it's a good idea.
Right. It could be bad for you. Magic kind of added a add-on. So I struggle with the story's not over because at least so far, I focus so much on integrating PC backgrounds and stories into the campaign. And now I'm also invested in the potential loss and have all the power to avoid it. And again, super duper resonates with me. You've put in the time, you've put in the effort, you've crafted this world and this narrative that is dependent on the heroes kind of making it. But I'm going to challenge that. Is it actually dependent on the heroes making it?
In real life, people die, unfortunately, all the
All the
fucking
time.
Their
All the
stories
time.
never finish.
Yeah.
Or they
some
finish
stories-
in an unsatisfying way. But that doesn't
Mhm.
mean that the story itself isn't good or isn't meaningful. It means it's just different. Somebody
Yeah.
else takes up the helm. Something
Yeah,
else comes up.
That's a
Now-
hard pivot suddenly. The story's not over. It's just a really hard pivot in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just so that we're not giving a sucks to your Asmar kind of answer. Magic, you live in a world with magic. I mean, like Sarah, cover your ears. But I have it in Barovia where all of the characters can die, absolutely, but the mists keep them there, so they may wander around in the mist, their souls detached from their bodies, undergoing like the torment of that, and then come back to life in a body somewhere, and they take levels of like fatigue or negative effects. Like I usually roll it on like Shadowfell tables, of like things that happen to you. So yeah, they can keep coming back, but they come back more and more broken every time they die, because it's hard dying, leaving your body and getting trapped in the mist for a while. So don't nod your head, Sarah, like you're listening, you cheater.
You can't hear us. Her headphones are out.
I'm pointing at her. But
coming
magic,
back.
we've got gods. I mean, how many times in stories, like in epic stories, where it's like your characters go down and the god cheats a little and intervenes
Oh,
when they're
100%.
not supposed to intervene with the lives of mortals. It's like, oh yes, I've got you, but guess what? I'm just gonna send you back into the fight. So I mean, it's games. You've got a million ways out to bring your characters back, but like also give them consequences.
Yeah.
But
I-
yeah, also just kill them.
Just kill
Here's-
them.
So, I mean, you can just kill them. Like, but I guess you can. You absolutely can. And I'm really excited about like this little space that we found ourselves in because it speaks to like the GMing side. Because again, I think Magic has kind of hit on something where it's like, but I want to like do this cool thing and I can't if they die and like consequences. I want it to feel important. Like that's something that resonates with me so deeply. But I saw something, I swear to God, it was probably like TikTok or something. But the bit of advice was GMs, stop writing plot. Start writing scenarios. And that has like shifted, like that clicked something in my head and I was like, oh my God. Because then instead of like me being like, I need to get them to this side of the plot, it's really just, I need to get them a choice. This or that. Here's your scenario. This or that. And I'm still going to get plot. I'm still going to get development. But instead of like it being narrative beats, it's like, I don't know, like it's changed my perspective of like the players must survive. No, the players must make a choice, this or that, and whatever that is will go in this direction. And I find that to be like, for me as a GM, like a completely like it took my brain and like put it in a different body. I was like, whoa. And to this question, like all your PCs die. They come up, they pick a fight with the wrong NPC. They just get absolutely decimated. And to bring it back to Brandon Sanderson, then you have a Mistborn situation where like new heroes have to rise up and do the thing. You know what I mean? Like, or, you know, you have gods that like there's infinite numbers of ways that you can handle that, certainly. And like Proper mentioned, okay, but this isn't real life. And it's true. You don't have to do any of this stuff. That's what the magic. You can do whatever you want. But I would say like stories matter and have meaning because they end. And endings don't always mean you save the day or you get the thing that you wanted. Sometimes it is that like hard cut, that hard pivot to what Keegan said earlier that gives everything that like weight and that like, because it's now, oh, it's on. It's so on. Like, think about all the times you've played in a game and the game master like took your beloved NPC and just like their neck right in front of you and you're like, oh, it's on. You know what I mean? It's that same kind of vibe. Luka hides.
What? What?
Who would do that?
Who would do that?
Who would do that?
Who would do that? No one would do that. It wouldn't be me. Listen, I like what you say where it's like plan scenarios, because I always plan encounters. Like, I don't know if you know how sometimes you have shower conversations with people, like practice conversations? Mine are always NPCs. Like, okay, if my players get here, like I'm practicing like how the conversation would go with this NPC. That's what I plan. I plan encounters, whether they're combat or like environment, like exploring this particular thing or talking with this NPC. The conversation with the NPC from the NPC side is going to go very similar. They have their own motivations and things they're going to say and things they care about. So it doesn't really matter which PC is talking to them. They're going to have the same kind of end goals and can direct wherever. So it's like I plan these conversations or exploration encounters or combat encounters, and then whoever the PCs are, or however many of them are left, can still find their way to these various encounters and get there and write the story to get there as they wish. So it doesn't necessarily matter which PC is there or if everyone's still alive.
Yeah.
I think be fine.
I mean, players. But like, don't be so attached to your story that like everything depends on them living. You know what I mean? Like, I think as GMs, that's really hard. You spend a lot of time and effort. You want to make sure everybody's cool and having a good time. And you're like, and I do think like with the introduction of things like Critical Role and you know, the Adventure Zone and all these like big stories, or like even just like Game of Thrones, like you want to tell a story that makes everybody go like, ah, and like it feels like if it doesn't go the way that you have it planned, then you'll miss out on that thing. And I completely understand. But
I think Game of Thrones, interestingly here, just looking at it as if it were an RPG real fast here, Robb Stark is a main character season 1. This is a character a player was playing who had a whole storyline set up. They kill that motherfucker. That motherfucker dies.
Yep.
Book 1.
Yep. And it's still, the story's still meaningful. That character's impact on the narrative is huge. And like even their death almost is a bigger influence than their life was, and changing our perspective of like the consequences of death, because death equal bad. What if it wasn't though? What if it was good? Like, what if it meant like I'm gonna do one of these really quick. The Bard's Refrain. The whole point is that there was like a cycle, and the chosen ones, the cycle before like my players actually were playing, they died. They didn't make it. They absolutely died in the moment of like needing to do the thing. They didn't do the thing, and like without that, my players wouldn't have had a thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, life goes on, things continue to happen. And if my players had died, it would have forever changed the world. And like, honestly, there was a part of me that's like, if they do all die, that means I get to live in a world where magic is fucked. Like, you can't do shit. Like, you can't go outside your door without like, am I being polymorphed today? Like, what the fuck's gonna happen to me? You know what I mean? And what, like, totally different. And so it's that shifting, I guess, death positivity, shifting the idea from like, if they die, the worst thing that could happen is if they die.
Is it?
Is it? Yeah.
I think that brings up a really cool, like, what does death look like outside of necessarily character death? Look at me bringing us back on topic here.
I know. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Look at you. You're a new host, Keegan. Keegan's taking the show by storm.
No, this is a really cool thing with like Bard's Refrain though, like where the characters before them or whatever had all died. And we see like other people have, made games that are like this. Amusingly, we've talked about them already, but Aaron King wrote "You Meet at a Funeral," which sort of like reimagines the whole like the players meeting at a bar to be like, hey, this adventuring party met at a funeral, and like how would that like fundamentally interact with how the players like relate to each other, what the campaign looks like, stuff like that.
I like that a lot because it's you're already starting with the concept of death, right? Like you're starting where most people like don't want to be, and like the bonding experience that is like loss, because that's something too, like death and grief and all of those things. There's so much good like narrative there, and like understanding and like pulling in like why stuff matters. And if you avoid it, I feel like you're kneecapping yourself a little bit. Like if you're go for it. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I feel like the second half of season 1 of Harper's was what it was because all of the characters' true death from the first half of the season. I mean, everyone came in mid-campaign because the previous party had died. So, like, they started off knowing, oh shit, this is serious. And there was that, like, air hanging over the hideout of, like, oh yeah, don't worry about that, just move aside their things. We'll take care of that later, kind of
right.
Like they knew they were stepping into the shoes of people that had very recently just died doing what they were doing. So I feel like it really kind of crafted how that second half of the season went.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's like there's weight, there's gravitas, there's investment. One of the things, I mean, where there are uncomfortable ideas, there is growth, there is change, that's where your good stuff is. So again, run your games however you want. Like I also love the idea of like characters just can't die, they just can't. So now we're gonna go as buck wild as we can and just lean in, and like I love that like overpowered sense. I totally get that. That's very, very fun. But I would challenge you to like go for the uncomfortable thing, because that's where the magic is. That's where you're gonna be surprised or shocked, and that's where your stories are gonna have meaning. Is because it's not gonna go the way you think that it would. Like you don't know what's gonna happen, and like, ooh, I'm getting all excited just thinking about it because it's like. Man,
I feel like that ties back into death positivity pretty well, though. I mean, part of the fear of death is you don't know what's going to happen, and here we are excitedly talking about that concept.
Mm-hmm. It's
Kill your
just
players.
or
Yeah,
don't.
kill your players.
But like
But kill them.
I don't be afraid of your own stories. They're gonna be okay. Just lean in, communicate and lean in. We're just about to a break time. But because I think actually I want to ask this. We're going to break a little bit earlier because I want to ask. We'll kind of foreshadow here a little bit, but what I want to ask about is like, okay, so you killed your players. What happens next? And maybe that's like what we'll come back to of like handling that from a GM side and what things you can do to kind of, because it can be distressful. And we'll kind of get back into that once we come back from break. But just a reminder to chat. Go get water. Or stretch or stand up or text someone that you care about. Let them know that you care about them. And then ask if you have any questions, ideas, things you want to like get into. Throw them in the chat because we will be keeping an eye out there. So we'll be back in like, I don't know, like 5 minutes. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, awesome. Bye. We're back.
Hello.
We have risen from the grave for the second half of Murder and Coffee, where we are joined by Keganexe, talk about death,
That's
TTRPGs. That is you. Look at you, bud.
Hi. Keegan,
Heyo.
can you show chat your shirt?
Yeah, we need to
Were you
openly
on
acknowledge
headphones while
it.
we were talking about
I'm
it?
always listening.
Says dead inside, but still horny.
But it's so good. So good. I love
have
it.
a mighty need.
I have a mighty need. So
That is still too hot to drink.
ooh, see, mine's kind of cold. I'm sad, but we're gonna get through it. We're gonna drink way too much coffee.
I like to give myself points for how well I handled that live on stream.
Take 2 points of inspiration. Yeah, that's right. 2.
Thank you.
Wow.
When we
That's
left,
super advantage.
yeah, super duper advantage.
Double, triple, extra advantage.
A spicy advantage. When we left, we encouraged GMs to just murder everyone.
Yeah.
So how do you handle the aftermath? You've murdered everyone. You have introduced this heavy concept to your table. And people are now experiencing grief. Because, like, it's real. I can't think of any time that I've sat at a table where, like, an important NPC died or another player character died, that it wasn't just like, and now we are handling loss. How do you navigate that space as a GM? Are there any things that you guys particularly do with your players?
Speaking from experience, I lay on the floor for 2 days staring at the ceiling, worrying that I've ruined everything. Then I take a couple of deep breaths and I'm okay. Then I put out a call to arms for new players. And then I have a funeral, a ceremony of sorts, where I can tie up loose ends. Like in the case of Harper's, like Ilya was, talked about like how she reached out to the Cathari's like mother and made sure that she was taken care of, that she had gone to visit the graves of Duncan's wife and child, like on his behalf, since he was now dead and couldn't do it. I tried to like give all the players, like characters, some sort of closure, or at least honoring in a ceremony with nice sad music, and it was a whole little with an art thing and everything, so that they could get some sort of sense of send-off. I feel like that worked out pretty well. Everyone was very sad, so I felt great about it.
Mission accomplished. I did good. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I feel like a certain level of success when I get my players to cry. So it was very much like I did it, yes. But it's especially when I can get Cole to cry, that's the real magic. So I felt very successful.
This is good.
Yeah, I love killing a character here. I love time skip. That's my way to handle basically any big topic. Like, do we want to get into this? No. Let's time skip a little. You know, we're gonna skip a month ahead. We are post funeral. Your character's obviously still mourning their, you know, friend or party member or whatever died like a month ago. But like, how have we moved on? What does that look like to you? And then, you know, we're gonna continue from there instead. And that lets us do a little bit of like, hey, you know, in this month, these are the ways we've remembered the character. These are the things we've done. You know, this is how we help their family, stuff like that. And then we jump forward. But like, if you do a full party kill, just like a, you know, a TPK, look at me go.
Yeah, on a roll.
Time jump's still a lot of fun there. I time jump much further if I do that though. It'd be like, okay, well, we're gonna jump 10 years into the future now. The big bad has won. And what does it look like? What do these new heroes look like? How did, you know, the last big adventuring party all getting wiped out? How does that like affect the world? How did that affect these new characters you're building? And it still keeps like the other characters like a very present part of the campaign, but without having them, you know, be the main focus anymore.
Yeah, I think, I mean, what I'm hearing both of you say, and I would completely agree, it's just granting that a stage to like say, how do you want to engage with this? And like giving them the opportunity to actually process and do something about it, whether it's in game or like post session, just like a sit down, like, hey, where are we at? How are we feeling? Like, and again, communication. Letting folks express that grief in whatever way that it manifests, right? I think a lot of the times, like, you can go the moody, broody, like, I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to like get vengeance, or, you know, the actual breakdown. Because I think a lot of it for me with, you know, around death and everything is that, like, you don't talk about it. Like, somebody dies and you don't talk about it. It's like, no, we should talk about it. We absolutely should talk about it. We should talk about the fact that, like, that would hurt, like that, and like, because you're feeling that hurt too. Like Luka, like, joking, was like, I lay on the floor for 2 days. I guarantee you actually did.
I wasn't actually joking.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't read that as a joke.
Like, you actually did.
I was laying on the floor just staring
Right.
at my ceiling for like 2 days. Yeah.
Right. Like, there's real human emotion there, and I think, like, when we're playing TTRPGs and like we are feeling the feels, particularly really heavy existential ones, that you take the time to process and like experience it a little bit. And I love the time jump as well, Keegan. Like, I think that's brilliant because you skip past the maybe reactive parts and give them a stability to like.
Yeah, and especially if you have players that are like, don't want to be like, well, I don't want to personally mourn for this character. That is doing like a bit of emotional labor there. Like, why don't we skip that? Why don't we get to the part where it's like, you know, we get past that to the point where we can be like a little more comfortable covering this topic easily.
Yeah, giving that space, because I think that's in games, death is like that far away thing where it's like, oh, like, and I mean, I have a pretty dark sense of humor. I feel like a lot of people do, where it's like, haha, we're gonna make death jokes, but it's different when you're now player character death brings it immediately like right in front of you, and it's like, like, it's not this like far away, like, I still have 30 hit points, I'm like a-okay, and 3 death saves, like, I'm gonna be fine. Like, no, it's happened and it's in your face, it's happening. So like helping kind of bring that back a little bit further, which leads into one of the questions that we like, let's see, yeah, we didn't really talk about yet, but why is it important to play with the concept of death? Like, why like, we've talked about it a lot, and we're like saying, you know, it's a thing that happens, it exists, put it in your games, kill your players, all this stuff, but why is it important to do that?
Kill your players? What about the character?
Well, that's what I mean. Sorry. Don't kill your players. I'm not advocating you kill the characters.
Sarah, murder advocate.
Put that on a t-shirt. I'm gonna get canceled. Well, it's been nice knowing y'all. I'll
I don't know. Is it important? Is it important to play with the concept?
I think it
an
is.
interesting concept. I think I'd be lying if I didn't say it colored like a lot of the work I do. But I don't know. I think it's a hard question.
It is a hard question.
I think, and I know you're not supposed to actually turn TTRPGs into therapy. You should actually go to therapy.
Yes.
However, if you are wanting to explore topics through the safety of like the distance that TTRPGs can give you, you explore these topics through telling stories with your friends, and that little bit of emotional distance that it can provide you. I feel like talking about something, exploring this topic that's usually very taboo or shushed by a lot of society is very healthy. Like, you get it out in the open, you can process it. I think that hiding death, not talking about it, almost makes it more terrifying, more looming in a way. And if you can get it out in the open and kind of explore it from that safe place, it might lead to some healthier ways of processing in your actual real life. That's my opinion on why I think it's important. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
I mean, yeah. I tend to agree. I think one of the things about what's powerful about TTRPGs is the gained perspective of playing them, right? Like, you're not you're a different character. You are exercising seeing things from another point of view. So when you have heavy concepts like death and you're engaging with it in a safe way that like you're not in any like physical like at risk, and no one's gonna chop your arm off with a sword, but like it's that like following of like the idea. And I think for me, the reason it's important is because I think it makes you more empathetic. Like, I think it makes it so when it happens in real life, like, they're totally different. And I'm gonna double down on what Lucas said. Don't therapize your friends in games. Go to therapy. Like, do the thing. But I think it's just that it helps like people see things differently in a more open and free way. And I think that if more people engaged with concepts of death, it would make us kinder in real life. Because it's like, it's not someone dying in a game is not equivalent to in real life.
Someone
it is
dying in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not equivalent, but it's like a drop in the bucket. You know what I mean? Like, it's the way I like to describe like experiences is like we're all in a movie theater watching the show that is life, and I'm not sitting in the same seat as any of you. I don't have that same angle. But by playing in with these concepts and TTRPGs, I might be like moving at least to the row that you're in. You know what I mean? Like, I'm at least somewhere around your experience. Like, still don't experience what you do. Still don't have that like same level of engagement. But it just helps, like, it helps heavy things in a safe way so you can understand, like, oh, I never thought about that. Now you have. You know what I mean? Now you have. And I love Chrissy's, you can't see it on the overlay, but I feel like we should say it out loud. If therapy was accessible to everyone, that would be amazing. But therapeutic spaces gives people the place to explore this stuff, and death is one of those topics. Absolutely.
Exactly.
10 out of 10. Do agree. Yeah. Man.
I would like to go to the next question.
Yeah, do the thing.
Why does necromancy get a bad rap? Because I personally have always really appreciated it ever since I saw that meme ages ago about like reduce, reuse, and recycle. Necromancers are the ultimate environmentalists because they're
Truly.
just really into recycling. I was like, it's genius. That's genius. I can't wait to play like this super hippie, like freaking vegan necromancer that's like recycling bodies because it's like the environmentally like sound thing to do. So yeah, why does necromancy get a bad rep? Thoughts on this? Discuss.
I mean, Purple said, it's not natural, and we've touched on it a little bit. Like, death is the one-way door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And necromancy, you've now made it something else. It's now a two-way door. And I think there's, like, at least in the society that, like, I was conditioned in, like, it feels disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like, they're done. They're resting. They're no longer them. You've now taken a person and made a monster with like a person's face. Like I think a lot of that kind of feeds in to the same thing, right? Like I would say the prevalent idea is like that it's a perversion of life, not another form of it, but it's a disrespectful kind of thing. But I don't know, like I think it's worth asking. Is it actually? Like, it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of view that it's disrespectful in the like, the bodies. Don't touch the body after they're dead. Don't desecrate the body by bringing it back and making it march around and do your bidding. It's probably seen as a bit of a faux pas. But
in real life that happens though. So this is a thing I think is actually sort of interesting, is that like in a lot of English-speaking countries, there's this massive taboo around, like interacting with the dead, or, like you said, taking them out and marching them around. That's not true worldwide. You do have a bunch of cultures where it's not too uncommon to like exhume your dead once a year and like rewrap them and march them around and have parades with grandma after she died. And I don't know, I think to some degree, and maybe this is too serious, but I think to some degree necromancy gets a bad rep because like English speaking, a lot of like English speaking and like especially white people just like don't interact with the dead. This is very taboo, and it lets us sort of like paint this as a bad thing. I don't think it necessarily has to be though. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with marching out the dead once a year and having a parade of the necromancers.
I think we've got like a bunch of different comments in chat and stuff, but I do think it's important, the point that you made, like it's taboo in the culture that I was, conditioned to believe, but that's not necessarily true everywhere. And being open, which again, I think is important why you explore these ideas in different cultures, because I think it just makes you a well-rounded, better, more empathetic person. It just gives you like a new perspective on the life piece, because that's really, I mean, life and death, we view them as like different sides of a coin, but like it's more like a D20. Like it's not really two sides. Necromancy is kind of like a third side to everything. It's just it's different. Yeah, the back from the dead trope is always an interesting one because it can take different forms. Luka, we played a lot with this in Harper Season 2 with the character that I played, Rory. When I was making the character, I was like going through the backgrounds, and one of the backgrounds is just dead. Like, not undead, dead. And I was like, what would that mean? Like, if I'm playing somebody who's dead, who died, not mechanically, but undead, what does that look like? And like exploring the concept of like, well, this world would be your afterlife. What does that look like? If a person's died, what do they have to continue for? You know what I mean? Like that was, you could argue that was not necromancy, but kind of like.
That was more me stealing from Discworld though, which I did very heavily for Season 2 of Harper's, where it was the wee free men, the Necmac Feegle, where they believe the world they're in is heaven. And so like when one of their members dies, they don't mourn. They're just like, oh, he went back to the real world, because like, what kind of world? Well, like, of course this is heaven. We can drink, we can fuck, we can fight, we can do, like,
Mm-hmm.
Clearly this is heaven. So, man, he died, he went back to the real world. He'll be back here eventually, and we'll be excited when he comes back. Like, and it's just this cycle back and forth between like they go back to life or come back to heaven. So when you're like, I want to play a dead character, I was like, listen, what if they believe that this is heaven and they've left their tribe like behind, and they're just like away from their family? Like, yeah, it's heaven, but they're away from their family, and that kind of sucks.
Right. It's like, yeah, well, this heaven kind of blows. like it's neat, but kind of want to know, kind of like any day now.
I'd love to go back.
Any day now, I'll get to just fuck right off and get back. But and Purple's dropping some like good commentary here in the chat as well. Like there's some lore things that does. Or let's see, I'm reading this wrong.
Yeah,
there's
so
also go for it.
Forgotten Realms lore with
Yeah.
necromancy is you're shoving the person's soul back in the body, and it's sort of like a violation there. And that's definitely true for like Forgotten Realms in the D&D. It's not necessarily true for every role-playing system, but it is interesting. Like that is definitely a good reason it would get a bad rap.
It's not the natural course of things.
I feel like so much depends on the character's beliefs or the lore or how the spell works mechanically, or like how Purple says, where it's like, is this just using your body, or are we using your soul and forcing you to be back in your body?
Yeah, I also think too it speaks like necromancy is like it's you're dealing in the undead. So now you're talking like the vampires, the zombies, like there is an actual category of monster that comes from necromancy in general. And it's interesting because it's like I'm like trying to think about, I'm like, this has struck my brain in a weird way. Like, is there something, I guess it would be like angels or whatever is the opposite side of that. It's very like heaven and hell kind of vibes. And Luke and I have had this conversation a lot around like living forever. You know what I mean? Like, and what that does. And is that evil? Is that really evil? Is that morally good? That kind of space. But I think there's something to it, right? Is it gets a bad rap because you're bringing back monsters that hurt. I think very rarely do you see we're preserving life just in a new way to like keep things working. It's always you're interrupting the natural flow. You're doing bad. And I think people should challenge that a little bit. Why not just like, no, necromancy, it's recycling. Recycling is good.
I mean, if we're talking in my grave cleric, she would make sure that they had filled out the proper forms, granting consent before being brought back.
The bureaucracy of undeath.
Undead, yes. Unperson, no. Mortally challenged, equality now.
Challenged? Oh my god.
Mortally challenged is a phrase.
It's very good. It's very, very good. Oh man. yeah.
Join
okay.
the Gravediggers Union today, please.
I
have some pamphlets.
I mean, Rossum put in the thing, right? Because if you can't die, then you live long enough to become the villain. I think that's one perspective, right? Like, is that part of it? This idea that if you live too long or you can't die or you keep coming back, that you just are around too long, that people do need to just...
You and I have argued about this so much, because when I was in school and I was forced to read Tuck Everlasting, I remember hurling that book across the room when I finished it, and Winnie didn't drink the water. I cannot still to this, like, to me, it's very much like you don't become the villain. It's like Groundhog Day. You just get to read all the books. You get to learn how to play all the instruments. You get to explore. Like, I think about like all the places I want to visit in the world, but then I think about all the places I want to just visit in my state that I live in. And then the places in just my country. And it's like, there's no time to do all of it.
This
And it's like
explains
you live.
the Luka Loxalit who became
Yeah.
undead to read all the books.
Mhm.
I'm following.
No, like,
Mhm.
I think about Groundhog Day so much as like he got to read all the books. You would finally have time. It doesn't matter. You finally have the time. It's not like, shit, I'm not doing anything. Like, I can't. You have all the time. There's no problem. I'm gonna read all the books. Yeah, I'm gonna learn how to play piano to the level like you wouldn't believe. I'm gonna learn guitar and violin and all the things too. I'm gonna learn every language because I just got the time. I will explore every inch of this world and then be alive long enough that I'm gonna figure out how to get off this world and explore every inch of that out there. Like, there's drink the water, Winnie. Drink the water, Winnie. What is wrong with you, Winnie? I
Yeah.
was so
What
mad
are
at
your
that book.
opinions on
I
that? Nope.
threw it across the room.
To
So
me, I really
upset.
feel.
So we like Winnie's ending, is what I'm hearing here.
Couldn't believe it. But
See-
yeah, Sarah and I disagree on this very much because I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
living forever. Read all the books.
Yeah, and I'm very much in the camp of
Yoda,
I wouldn't-
rest now.
I would not drink that water, man. Like I'm and I think speaking to like the larger conversation around like because things having like the end, like it's kind of that liberation from like the responsibilities of life a little bit. Like it's just like at some point
I
you
I was just
can't
think I couldn't imagine being in credit card debt. Just in credit card debt forever.
exactly like
please let me die. I don't want to owe money on this credit card.
But if you're alive forever, you just make the money that would pay it off. There's no time,
Yeah,
or you
I
just
think-
outlive the credit card company.
but that's
What
the
are they
thing.
gonna do? Kill you?
But that's the thing for me, and I think like why like I'm like coming around to like having death be something a little bit more prevalent in my stories and not being afraid of it as much is because like in real life, like I'm very much like, yeah, like this is the time that you have and one day it'll be over, and like one day it'll be over. Like I think that having an ending and only having so much time, only having so much perspective, like spending your time gaining the perspective that you can. But I think as we look at humanity, like, yeah, I could read all the books and I could do all the things, but I think like to what end? I think
I've read
that
a
like
lot of books, and they're
Yeah.
bad.
and they're bad. Not all books are
Reading
good.
the wrong books. Clearly, you are not reading the right kind of books that make you want to stay alive forever.
Oh, and then that's the thing. Like I think that there's a beauty in brevity. I think that there's an appreciation for the things that like I can't remember, this is a quote from something certainly, but like is a rose is only beautiful for a time. You know what I mean? And that yes, there is beauty in it passing, but like this idea that like we have these bright sparks, we appreciate them for what it is. We try to set up things in a way that will make those happen in the future. But like ultimately, like at some point, you'll get to rest and like be done. And fuck right off. Like there's like a peace and beauty in that versus like the idea of like doing the living thing forever. There are not enough books. I don't care how good they are to like make that worth it, I guess. Like
There's always more to explore. There's always more to learn.
Sarah no want lich dumb for certain, because it's just like at some point I'd just be tired. Like, well.
Luka Lich dreams.
Rossum asked another question. What if Do you get the choice of when you are done and can die, or just stuck in the forever, like extended life or like forever? I mean, I still feel like I'm cool with the like this time. Like even races like being an elf, living like hundreds of years.
Oh my god.
Ah!
Elves lived too long in D&D. It's like, oh yes, they live 3,000 years. Like that is a lot of time.
Right. And I think you become removed from like I do think that there's like the beautiful like idea of still remaining like active and stuff, but I do think that like you become removed from the flow
Elves.
of like just of everything, like because
I mean, this
you're
honestly explains why liches are the way they are.
yeah, like Helibonia is like a perfect example, right? Like
Mhm.
what is 50 years when you've lived 3,000? I
Yeah.
ain't no thing.
Yep.
Is making me weirdly
I love her.
appreciate Lord of the Rings being like, hey, when elves get old enough, they just get on a boat and they go
And they
away.
just fuck right off. Yeah, dude, they just fuck right off. Like I
That's
love
such
that.
a
To me is beautiful.
decision. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's so beautiful because it's like they recognize that the value that they have for this world is like they're not getting anything from it. Nobody else is getting anything from it. Like fucking off is the right call.
We're getting old enough that we can't have perspective on whatever the fuck is happening here anymore. We're just
Yeah.
gonna get on a boat and we're going to go to a new island.
Where like everybody's like this, so it's not a big deal, and we're not impacting like everybody else with our
Yeah.
bullshit.
Listen, that's fine as long as they've got a library.
You
would
go to the
assume
Grey
they have a
Havens.
library on the island. Yeah.
Mhm,
Just
mhm.
if we could just every time someone comes to the island, if they bring a new shipment of books,
Right.
then we're good.
Well, and there's two different perspectives, right? There is this very beautiful Lord of the Rings, like they go off and they separate themselves, but then you have like a more sci-fi idea from like Altered Carbon, where it's like they never fuck off. They just keep like doubling down on what they have, and
The meths, yeah.
the meths, yeah, and then you have this like this oppressive society that never allows those who, never had a chance to ever get a chance. Like you're just stuck in this perpetually like increasing gap of knowledge and resources. And like
Mhm.
that's, I mean, two sides of the same idea, right? Like I would argue that like because death doesn't exist really, I mean, unless your stack gets destroyed in Altered Carbon, like it creates like
I mean, in Altered Carbon, death exists. It just only exists if you're poor.
exactly.
Which does bring up like a cool like death and capitalism sort of thing.
Yes, absolutely. Like, and I think, I mean, that's the real villain, right? Capitalism, always. But like, I mean, as far as like GMing and writing the story of it, like I know for me, like anytime I've had like an everlasting, ever living character, they are aloof, they are separated, they are like distant, because to them, these are, the paltry qualms of the mortals. They do not know.
Right.
Like they there's no way they could possibly know like the extent of
Oh,
it.
you still deal with mortality?
Gross.
Okay.
All right.
Poor.
You didn't get the extended warranty?
The Paris Hilton just be skinny shirt, but just
I don't
just
fuck with
be-
parsies.
Yeah, a
just
little bit,
be
yeah.
undead. Yeah.
And I would argue I've yet to see someone like other than like a god, and even god statuses, but like anytime I've introduced like this person lives a long time and is therefore removed, all the PCs are like, fuck that guy.
Every time.
Fuck that guy for real.
100%.
Fuck that guy. Like they're never on board with that. Like they're never like yeah, no, I get it. Like that guy's fine. It's literally like, you don't care about me, you don't care about my problems. Fuck you.
Hey, now listen. I would like to think that we all have a special place in our heart for Helibonia.
Listen, I get it.
Lichness.
But like she was real attractive.
If we're hot, we can forgive it. That's some
Yeah.
good GMing advice. If you want people to like the character, make them hot.
Make him
Not too hot.
My
'cause it makes them
secret.
suspicious.
I make all of my villains just really, really attractive.
See, that's the
Oh
problem.
no, they're hot.
They can't be
Frick.
too hot. If they're too hot, you don't trust them.
Hmm.
They have to be like approachably hot.
Oh man,
They're
there's
always
a fine line.
unattainably hot, so it's like
That's why they're
it's almost like
villains.
huh? Yeah.
But like that's again, like I think it's like there is an uncaringness to like undead, right? Like they're removed from life. They don't really care. They're around too long. Fuck you. I'm now that I'm like saying it out loud, I don't even know how I would play like a character that like lived forever that my PCs be like, yeah, I jive with you. Like, I mean,
As
gods
if-
get I get he's a god, he gets a
As if-
pass. But even then, like
He's the first god that I've ever liked, though. Really.
that's fair. That's fair.
Because normally most of my characters are like, no, fuck those guys.
Yeah. But I think there was like a expressed, like direct, like I care about you and your plight kind of a vibe. But it came off very different, I guess. Like I don't even know. Like he was just nice, but I feel like
It was a very fatherly kind of vibe, but not in like a distant, removed fatherly god. It was like a, hey buddy, let's go chuck the ball around. I really I love how well you did at school today. Love you, kid.
proud of you, son.
Tussle the hair.
So that's to get people like your undead, just make them a parent figure, I guess.
Just be a dad. Be a daddy, or just make them
Hot dad
unreasonably
bodlich
hot.
confirmed.
Make them like an 8 or 9 out of 10.
There you
That's
go.
That's the trick.
Speaking of
So
yeah, I know.
yeah.
I was gonna say. Speaking of undead, all the things. There's a plethora of undead beings. Not, and I mean like yes in D&D, but like in lore in general. And I have a lot of undead in my games. It's the monster I can't quit. I just can't. There's too much,
mm-mm.
too good. Do you guys have like a favorite undead?
Yes.
I mean, you got your classics, right? But like, is there
Luke was
one?
gonna say Strahd. I just feel
No. So obviously, I love the liches, and Helibonia was like my baby girl that was my overarching villain. But honestly, my favorite kind of undead is Banshee. I
Ooh.
love the idea of this beautiful waif-like woman just like hanging out on your roof singing to you when you're about to die. And like how they always I always have them slightly oracle like in all my campaigns. There's always some banshee hanging out in a tree that you can go and talk to that just kind of moves around creepy, and like I love banshees. I think they are the perfect undead.
This is interesting.
I have a favorite. It's so in D&D specifically, my favorite is I've run a Dybbuk once, which is so much fun. I'll get to it in a second. Just a side note, D&D is so bad at doing Jewish monsters that I almost feel bad bringing this one up, but it's so cool. But it is specifically a spirit that possesses nearby corpses. So it was a ton of fun to drop on a party as like a, hey, you beat the big bad. Oh no, he's getting back up.
It's just keep going.
Yeah, and like we've killed like 5 or 6 people in this room, and this monster can literally just jump from corpse to corpse. It's been literally like the most fun I've had with a monster.
Yeah, because
What
like
is that one called?
It's a Dybbuk, Dybbuk.
you just
Ooh.
what happens when throwing
Hold
death
on,
at
just-
death? You just
Let me
exponentially
write-
death.
write
It's
that down.
really good.
Mhm.
It has a cool stat block where it like literally can jump from person to person.
That's I like
from
that a
corpse
lot
to
though.
corpse. But yeah,
I like because again it's you're playing with the concept of death in a new way, right? Like you can't make something that's undead more dead. It's already dead. So like hacking and slashing at it, like I think maybe that's what it is with undead, is it creates like this dynamic way of like how to handle it, right? Like I personally love the concept of healing an undead to like get it
That hurts them.
that hurts them. Like that to me, it's just this like this wonderful concept. Like you just pop up like a circle of healing and it just decimates people as they like come in. You know what I mean? Like it's like Roger Rabbit, like with the melting cartoons. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's the visual I've always had. You cure wounds a zombie, and you're essentially Roger Rabbiting them.
Jesus.
Yeah. I like whites. Like I think that one of my favorite undead that I ever ran was Baron von Scouten, which was homebrewed. But I
He
like
definitely had the best voice.
he was very good. But I like whites. I like the idea of and revenants as well. I think
Revenants
revenants
are very
might
cool.
I think revenants might beat out whites ultimately. The Baron was just like a personal favorite from a homebrew standpoint because we gave him a bunch of stuff that just made him a nuisance. Just an
Yes.
absolute
Bird spent that
nuisance.
entire session just trying to undo all the things he was doing on everyone.
Yep.
I didn't get anything done. I was just like, counter spell,
Right.
magic. Oh my
Right.
god.
Right.
It's okay.
Right. And revenants are really cool because again they maintain a level of person to them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they are undead, but there is still an element of who they are. And there's like that built-in drive piece, the motivation kind of a thing. And like they're just a cool monster. Like this person hated so hard that when they died, it was like, fuck no. They like got back up and they're like, only rage fuels me. Like, like I am purely here to fuck that one guy in particular. Like I'm gonna do it. Dang it. And like the flavoring on it with like the flaring eyes and all that stuff, it's just very, very cool from like a Dungeons and Dragons perspective. I really like revenants. They're very, very neat.
I'll say outside of D&D real fast.
Mhm.
This is a thing that shows up in Harrow the Ninth, the book, and I stole it for In Extremis, but there's a creature in that I don't know if calling it undead's fair, maybe, but when someone is resurrected, a creature is created that like specifically hunts the people who resurrected them, and it is such sick world building.
I like that a lot,
they're
actually.
like big god necromancer guy in the books. Sorry everyone, this is book spoilers.
You've been warned.
Like brings back an entire planet, and there's this like, now there's this planet-sized fucking creature coming after them.
I love that though.
Isn't specifically alive or dead, and they don't really like understand it super well, and it's literally just like the sickest fucking creature.
That's so cool. That's so cool because it adds like, yeah, you can bring things back. Do you want to? Like it isn't this like one-to-one.
There's a reason nobody fucking does this.
Right. Like I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like you're interrupting a perceived natural flow. There are third point consequences to that. You know what I mean? Like in Monster of the Week, right? Like when you do big magic or something like that, when it requires you to like, you're wanting to bring someone back from the dead, absolutely. But there's consequences, and the idea that it's like this unknowable like thing that's just like coming for you. It's that's very cool.
Like
I like that a whole
it's like
bunch.
the wish spell. Like, yeah, you're doing something real powerful. You're basically rewriting the fabric of reality. This person has died. You're undoing that. There's gonna be
finger
some
curls. Yeah.
consequences.
Oh man. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, but if you were to do that, right? Like in a world, would you tell your players that that was a thing or happen? Like, you know what I mean? That would happen. Like they would know, but like, how cool would it be? Like, yeah, you've just been going around like resin all your buds every 30 seconds, and you walk into a room and there's just a wall of these things. Like, we've been waiting. Like,
So this is a thing I dealt with writing In Extremis. Was like, hey, so I want to have these cool creatures that come back if you revive someone.
mm-hmm.
So there's like a whole section on like what the players know, and that is that like, hey, you're pretty sure you worked out how to revive someone permanently. Like you're pretty sure you know. Everyone said it's not possible. but like, you could do it, right? And just like, this is a thing, this is mechanically how it would happen. You think something else might happen, you're not sure what, and then you like flip a page and it's like, what happens?
Mhm. Oh man. I'm like my
I like
brain's
the
just
idea
literally
of not telling them. And
that's my
just
thing is
having
my
them-
brain's just like that's very good. Like like from the jump, like you have this ability and then you're like, because 100% they use it a whole many, you know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah,
if I can't
did
die,
it.
that's fine. Like I'm
We
never
did it.
I'm
In the TPK stream for the game, in fact, is Mads killed a character, and like right at the end we brought it back and he's like, okay, cool, you know, like as we zoom away, like session's over, as we zoom away, something is following these players. You know, maybe we'll find out. Bye.
catch us next week on da 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 da.
It
It is a cool
follows.
thing where it like sort of like warps the campaign around it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you thought there was a big bad already. You did something, and hey, congrats, now there's a second big bad.
Right. The story
And it's
continues.
out to fuck you in particular.
Mhm.
You basically just created a revenant from scratch by fucking with magic.
Right. There's the inevitability of consequences of death still super present.
Mhm.
Super present. I love that. We're getting close to the 2-hour mark. So I'm gonna encourage chat. Like if you have any questions, commentary, anything you want us to discuss, now is your time. Ask the question. But I want to ask you guys this question, because we play a lot of TTRPGs, and I think I just want to hear. Can you tell me about a time that you were running a game, playing in a game, that there was a moment of death that you were interacting with that just resonated really deeply with you?
I think I actually just brought it up amusing.
Yeah.
Which was playing in Extremis on Top Shelf. We killed, oh fuck, I don't even remember who it was. I think it was Zeke's character. It died like 15 minutes left in the session, and it's like he was the son of my character, he's the father of another person's character. Like we had this big this big family, and he just fucking dies right at the end of the session. And you know, this little girl, because she was I think it was Chrissy playing her. No, was it? I don't remember who was playing it, but like a 7-year-old girl, like, hey, I'm gonna bring her back. I don't understand that there's consequences to this action, and she does it. And you know, we all know something terrible is about to happen, and then the session ends. It was just like a really cool moment.
That is really cool. That cliffhanger though is giving me anxiety. I can't tell if it's the caffeine from the coffee or like the idea that but that's
Not only is something coming back, but it's hunting a literal 7-year-old.
yeah, like an actual little kiddo. Man.
Yeah.
Intense. Luka, what about you?
I feel like I've kind of talked at length about all of the times of death has been impactful in my
Mhm.
campaigns. I mean, Harper's season 1 was a real big one.
Mm-hmm.
Just the laying on the floor afterwards, everyone having their moment out, and then the whole Ilya walking down and removing the gentle repose from her sister, realizing that no one would be around anymore to return her.
Big
That was
feels.
kind of a big one for me.
Big feels. Yes. It's funny because I feel like I've had the privilege of interacting with death in most of, it's been a very big theme in all of the games that I've played in. Always. I think for me, it was from a player perspective, and it was like the first time that I was like directly impacted in my very, very first D&D game. We were playing, we were trying to escape an arena, and there was an NPC that was like trying to help us get out. And through unfortunate circumstances and actions that the party took to try and like get out and save this person, it ultimately led to their demise. And there was a moment where like I was interacting with this NPC as they were like passing on, and I remember like it kind of clicking into place, like, no, this person's dying, and like, oh god. And that was like the first time that I just lost it at a table. Like, we're all sitting around, everybody's like having this emotion, like everyone is crying, everyone is feeling that feeling, and it was like, oh man, this is a powerful experience. Like, this is intense. But that was the first time that it like clicked in, and that like, oh no, I actually give a shit about this person that I've known for 30 minutes who has this goofy accent, but like I'm feeling this. And that was intense. And rest
That
in
was
peace,
just all
that
of
guy.
Bar's refrain for me.
Rest in peace, that guy. Oof. Oof.
Sort of related to this, one of
yeah.
my favorite ways to play games, or like my favorite like first session thing, is running funnels, which are just super fun. So everyone starts with like 12 characters,
And it just chews them up.
like, yep, you just chew them up, and you get to the end, and they hopefully have one at the end. And it's just such a fun way to interact with it. Just like, hey, you have 12 characters. At the end of the session, you're gonna have one.
It's very slapsticky, right? Like,
yeah, it's so fucking funny. Like, for the polar opposite of what's happening here.
Yeah.
Just being like, hey, you tripped and fell into a wood chipper. You're down to 11. Let's
Killer
keep going.
kobolds from outer space.
Yeah, I was just gonna say killer kobolds, where it's
our meat grinder. Yeah, that I ran.
I stepped outside. I think it was like a piano or something. Just like a piano just fell from the sky. Just, and we're gone. Like, and just like that, this person is gone. Next kobold. Like, insert. Which is a lot of fun.
Very fun session.
It was a ton of bricks. Thank you, Purple. It really was. It was Purple and I. We stepped out and we were like, we did good job. Dead.
Those games are so much fun. I wasn't sure I was gonna like a funnel the first time I ran one, and then we did, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be like the entire cast of Grease. Like,
oh my god,
let's go. And you like, we step outside, and it's like Danny stepped on a fucking landmine.
Yeah, it's leaning into the absurdity, right? Because it's a game, and it can be just stupid, dumb fun. Like, just absolute, like, because it is safe, because you are removed, just dumb fun.
Yeah. There's something real fun about just like, oh, and your character is a cloud of blood now.
They're a splat on some floor somewhere.
So many splats.
You have so many splats. And Proper came in. I like this question as well, and I think this is kind of what we'll end on. What are your favorite ways to play, or your depictions of an afterlife? I have to think about this one.
I've never really depicted much of an afterlife. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. No, you just started. Go for it.
I always just have done the where someone kind of gets stretched away to that middle ground where they're speaking with a dark entity in Barovia. I've never really engaged with an afterlife because I kind of like the idea that, yeah, sure, death comes to collect you, but where you go after that is up to you.
That's very much a thing I generally like as well. Just like, if a player is, a person, not even necessarily a player, like if anyone's just like full gone, you're not interacting with them anymore. But I did have a campaign I ran recently where like a big thing is that you find out the gods of the land were all dead, and we do eventually like sort of hunt down where they were, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, this is gonna be the afterlife, this is where all the gods went when they died or whatever. They get there and it's just corpses. It's like, oops. Well, you found them, they were dead. Congrats. And everyone was like, wait, there's not like an afterlife for them? Like, yeah, they're dead here.
This is after their life.
Yeah. Like, oh well, shit, fuck, okay, goddamn.
I think for me, like, one of my, like, I think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is the idea that you get to rest. You know what I mean? I'm a huge fan of the like Elysium fields of just being able to like go to a place that is calm and quiet, and then you're there as long as you need to be. There's no you're trapped in a new kind of existence, but rather like there is a moment of quiet. Because I think particularly with like adventurers or just life in general, it's very loud, it's very chaotic. And for me, like the beautiful sentiment of afterlife is that like, and then it is quiet. Like there is peace, there is comfort, there are moments of closure. It is somehow separate from life. And like not in like a heaven sort of a way, like you have whatever you want. Like I don't like that concept at all. But that's personal bias. I just like the idea of like it's almost just like an endless plane where you just feel perfectly at ease, very like Gladiator running his hands through the wheat kind of vibe. And you're there as long as you need to be till you found your peace. And then I'm very much in the same camp as you guys. It's you're around as long as you want to be. And I think
It's very much Bird, I'm tired now.
I'm tired now. And like she gets to like rejoin and like be with the people that they care about, and maybe they're there forever and maybe they're not. But like I love the idea that there is like an end where it ceases to be. And so I guess like really like it's not an afterlife so much as it's like a pause into non-existence. Like I vibe with the idea that like fade to black, there's nothing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I vibe with that so hard because I think like oh, go for it.
Oh, I was saying I really like the like sort of like 5 people you meet in heaven approach to it, where it's like, hey, you know, you're here. There's a few things you did not learn before you died. You know, or you're gonna take some time to work it out at your own speed, you know, and when you're done, you can move on, and you know, great.
Absolutely. And like all good things, and like death, I mean, things come to an end, and I think we've reached a very beautiful natural end to this month's session of Murder and Coffee. Keegan,
This was so much fun.
thank you for coming and talking to
Keegan.
us about this. I freaking love it. And thank you for writing games that like kind of explore these different, whether it's you know, In Extremis or Necromancy.
I've written too many games that explored this topic. I have them listed.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. As a reminder, go check out Keegan's games and all the things that they do and make at keganexe.com. Keegan, is there anything you want to plug or talk about before we head out?
You know, I just released dungeondelvers.tv, which you can find online at dungeondelvers.tv. I just released that recently. It's a game about being a streamer and going into the dungeon as a streamer and hopefully not fucking dying on stream. But yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. Luka, do you want to just tell the folks where they can find you?
Yes. You can usually find me here on TPK Roleplay. Except tomorrow you can find me, at least in the morning, over on Harrison's stream playing in House of Lament, and that's Harrison_stream. And then back here again for Shadow of Arnor, which is our Lord of the Rings campaign. And then I am not around for a while until the 25th, where I will be over on Nat 20 in their new Fragments campaign, which is Demiplanes of Dread campaign that I'm playing in, that Harrison's running on their channel, and I'm very terrified and also very excited. So that's where you can find me. Sarah, what about you? Where can we find you?
I mean, I'm Osarix Franco. I'm not everywhere. Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, all the places. I'm in a variety. I do a variety of TTRPG content here on TPK Roleplay. You can find me Nat 20, Neon Lights Roleplay, Critical Misses. I'm all over the place. So just if you're not following those channels or engaging in that content, you absolutely should. Please go support our friends because they're great and wonderful. I want to thank chat for participating today and for the great questions and commentary on today's topic. It's awesome. We just love having you. And one last thanks to Keegan. We'll be back next month where we're going to be talking about homemade handouts in home games, which I'm very excited for. So catch us next month. Yeah, and I think that about does it for us here.
I forgot real fast. I'll actually be back on TPK next week to play Nova.
Oh
On
hell
the Top
yeah!
Shelf.
Oh hell yeah!
Ooh.
Don't miss out on that. Absolutely check that out. This is the second episode of Top Shelf
Yep,
coming into the new
season
year.
2, episode 2.
Yeah.
Hell
season
yeah.
2.
So check all those things out. But until next time, enjoy your piping hot coffee.
And your cold-blooded murders.
Bye guys.